Okay, so today we have Mr. Robert Chelsea here today, who is a first and many measures, but including being the first African-American to become a facial transplant recipient. And he is definitely a dynamic voice when it comes to the disability diaspora, which is a new term that I learned from him. Today we have a series of questions, but it will be more of an open discussion style kind of for this interview. And then we will also have Nathaniel as well too, who is currently finishing his master's in communications at West Virginia University. He traveled all the way from Nigeria as well, so he is international. So that's a great aspect to have as well too when it comes to focusing on health. And myself, I'm the founder and then president of the Black Community Health and Wellness Association, which is based in Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, Robert, how is it going today?
Oh, going real good, thank you. I look forward to this interview and having a chance to interact with uh, our diaspora that's conscious about not just face or transplantation in general, but the healing of our disabled diaspora. There's so many different ways that we can approach healing. And as long as we have individuals that are at least concerned about it, I hope that our discussion will stimulate a little, inspire others, and hopefully others will, if they weren't sure, maybe we could help solidify some of their concerns today.
Yes, definitely. All right, Robert, we're going to go ahead and dive into some things here. So the first question that I had for you is kind of giving people an introduction into the incident and kind of what caused everything. So can you take us back to the day of the accident that changed your life? And also, if you could please share how you've navigated the transformation since then, particularly your time in a coma and the significant decision to undergo a full face transplant.
Well, that's a great deal over quite a few years to make those kinds of decisions. But initially, I was on the freeway in Los Angeles. A car overheated. I pulled to the side of the shoulder of the freeway, and as I began to I started using the phone to catch up with someone to give me a hand, and I noticed that there was a car swerving across the lanes, happened to be a drunk driver, and he drove right onto the shoulder of the freeway and ran straight into me. So the car went up in the air, and when it came down, about a few seconds later, it blew up. So as a result of me being in the car, of course, I got severely burned. I didn't realize how bad it was until I woke up from the coma. But I was conscious during the fire, and a good Samaritan, if you will. He's now a precious friend, and his family is as well. His name is Richard Robles. He came to help me get out the car, and uh, as he was helping me out, he said that he tried to take my arm, but my arm was melting. So he had to take a belt buckle and try to help to safely escort me to an area where there weren't too many cars. We did check on the driver. He was not injured. And when the ambulance came, I was conscious. I did feel sunburn spots, but nothing like a person would imagine when you're burning. It just wasn't as bad as it might appear, or you would think, uh, based on just having your finger burned or something like that. It was just a different kind of burn. So anyway, I was able to tell them who I was and who to call. I felt that I would probably just lay down on the ambulance gurney and try to rest because obviously it was a traumatic experience. And as I laid down and tried to get some sleep, I woke up 6 months later. So I was actually in a coma for 6 months.
And that coma in the 6 months, when you woke up, what did you even think? What was like the first thing that you can remember thinking about?
Well, I'm not sure uh, what I was thinking. Most people, the nurses and doctors and friends and so on, they started celebrating and giving me all kind of accolades of being able to live through the coma. And it took about 3 or 4, 5 days before I realized that I was actually in a coma. Because during that time, I was feeling fine. I had no idea that my lips had been totally burned off and part of my tongue, and my body was really all grafted, and you could see because I was in the bed, so I could see my arms and my legs, but I wasn't able to see my face, and I didn't look for it until about 3 months or so when they started trying to get me out the bed. They put me in a wheelchair, and as we were rolling out to the hallway, I saw an aluminum uh, paper towel holder, and the reflection on that, I could see myself. So I asked the nurse to back me up and let me take a look at this. And then I realized, oh, this is what everybody's making a really big fuss about. People would say, oh, Robert, we're praying for your recovery. And they're telling you all about the things that can be done to neutralize the blemishes. And because my face, was mangled and all burned, and they're trying to offer me all kind of natural formulas and uh, herbs, creams, and everything else. But I didn't realize that that I looked like a Halloween mask. So once I realized that, as far as I was concerned, I was fine. You know, you don't know your condition, even when they have tubes running in and out of you. You know, they have the tubes. They know why they're there. You're the you're in the bed as a uh, you're surviving. So uh, I didn't know my condition, but once I saw my face, then I realized this is why everyone making such a fuss and why they're so sad and so on. But I wasn't sad at all. I was not in pain by God's grace. I, you know, who could have asked not to have any pain? It would be almost ridiculous to think of such a thing. If anything, you'd ask for something minimal or a whole lot of medication. But I'm so grateful that God saw fit to allow me to pass that all together. And
Yeah.
it reminded me of, as I might have mentioned, Daniel was in the lion's den. He didn't get a scratch on him, nor did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace. So it helped me to uh, enjoy the ride. Um, the conditions you mentioned to talk about how I transitioned uh, from a different life, but and it is a different life, but it's much more glorious than a life that man can imagine. It has more features, benefits, you might say comfort pockets, places where I can lay my head that I may not have been able to in the normal day as a normal person that later. But God saw fit to give me a peace, a comfort. I've used the term many times that it's like being in a valley experience and discovering lilies in the valley.
Yeah.
So this is just I'm pretty sure that this wasn't done for my benefit only. I mean, I'm just another one of his creations. But I hope that sharing my experience gives individuals hope on number one, what can happen in terms of a change of life, and how it can be not just a change, a shift of losing whatever reputation you had, whatever uh, form of income you had, or your talents and etc. But it's a new day.
Mm.
So I'm extremely grateful that yes, it's going to change, and certainly a lot of adjustments because it is a new day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. And I'm
I
glad
was going to ask Robert, what year did this accident occur?
August the 5th, 2013.
Thank you.
And so this will be 11 years in August. My face transplant, which took place about 5 years after my face, after the burns, that happened in July 2019. So it'll be 5 years in July.
Thank you.
I think that's a good point to bring up, Nathaniel, too, to kind of see the timeline as well. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful that you mentioned that. Okay. Kind of leading into that as well, too. You've mentioned before in previous interviews that sometimes when you went into certain places, and you mentioned specifically one time when you went to a restaurant, that there was different public reactions to your face and how it looked after the accident. So how did you manage the social interactions, and what message do you hope to communicate about societal norms of beauty and acceptance?
Well, yeah, little boy, I was at a restaurant, and my sister and we had a Bible study, because we had to drive about 88 miles from. I was staying at her house for about 3.5 years, almost 4 years, because I had to recover from all the burns and so on. I couldn't walk. I couldn't so much I couldn't do it. You can probably tell in my voice, my diction isn't as clear even to this day, and that's 11 years later. So during that time, I had not had to face transplant. So I did look like a Halloween mask because I used that expression. We went to the restaurant. Now, people will tell me I had no shame. And I think I had shame, but the things that some, let's say 60 to 70% of the people that would be shamed, I may not have that kind of shame. So it didn't affect me in a way that, maybe the majority of people would be affected. But I was sitting in the lobby area waiting for a table, and a little boy walked in, about 3 or 4 years old, and little boy was looking all around at all the people, and when he saw me, he stopped and he shook, and then he turned to his dad and grabbed his dad's leg and said, "Daddy, Daddy, he looks like a zombie." Really loud and all. And so, of course, the dad was embarrassed, but it's humorous. I mean, a child 3 or 4 years old, they say what they see and what they think. and it didn't, but I know that in spite of some might say, well, you look good now, well, I know that I can also be looked upon or considered to be a freak, because you'll be able to see certain parts of my head and chin and things that they do. Something is kind of different, weird about it. So, because the alignment of the face transplant is, the donor's face was much larger than my face. So, it causes anyway. But I was okay with my burned face. I didn't really have that much of a problem. As I mentioned to you earlier, the joy that has fulfilled me, I don't see it as a substitute. I see it as an enhancement, an embellishment upon what I already had with our Heavenly Father before the accident. This just opened up a new dimension whereby I had other reasons and other conditions that allowed me to continue to rejoice, even in a greater way than before. It's like there's a very familiar scripture. David said, though I walk the valleys of the shadows of death, I fear no evil, for God, thou art with me, rod and staff, comfort me. He prepares the table before me in the presence of my enemy, and so on. Well, many people have read or heard that, and I think we can, after seeing the life of David and all the other expressions, we can see that, well, David was right on with what he was saying. This just wasn't a poetic letter. He was talking about things. It could have been by faith. It could have been because he believed it, or he imagined it. But I now can identify with what David had to say, and I realized that he went through it. He went through valleys, shadows of death, but he didn't have to fear evil. How would you like to have that experience? How would you like to live like that? Where no longer do you have to be apprehensive or especially concerned about other circumstances, unfriendly circumstances, adverse circumstances.
Yeah.
David was saying, I no longer have to fear that kind of evil.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are going to touch more on that later too, when Nathaniel takes on with his questions about how your spirituality has definitely helped you through this as well too. So my next question here is, undergoing the facial transplant and becoming an amputee, we said first had brought you a different set of unique challenges. So I kind of want to go into, how did those challenges kind of impact your life and your level of autonomy? And I know that we've, discussed before outside of this interview, like, how disability, especially disability that you're not used to, that you didn't grow up with, this is something that just is kind of like, now it's different. How did that impact you, especially for people that might be going through something similar?
Well, I'm not always sure how to interpret the impact, because words are not always appropriate to articulate the experience. I'm exposed to so much medication now, and I was never. I just took herbs, natural vitamins and things like that, and so now I'm taking mandatory medicine. And cannot take the herbs. Medicine costs a lot of money. Now I'm at the pharmacy no less than once a week. And because I have to take another formula or add to it or take a smaller dose or a larger, etc. And so I'm exposed to so many infections. I just had a septic infection on the week of April the 17th. Yeah, but that week before that, yeah. And I was in the hospital 7 days. It almost seems like I'm always in there at least 5 to 7 days. So there's been a great deal of impact, and one of the changes of life, as you have been inferring, is being the first Black. Most of the medical staffers do not identify with Blacks, people of color. And there are about 18 different shades that we discovered of African Americans, which is a lot different than any other race. Our hair, as you know, is totally different than any other race. And so, as a result of that, when you're the first and there's a team of physicians and medical cohorts, they still have no clue of the external signs that are indicative to my condition. Because they're used to looking at a pale face, red face, pink face, blue lips, white knuckles, and none of those apply to me. So it takes me to go into, you might say, another stage of illness before it's detectable. And generally it's detectable through blood tests, blood work, versus looking at, feeling and touching my case, and in addition to the biopsies that they take and so on, which a biopsy is basically taking a piece of your whatever point it is that they're working on. In my case, my case. So, and not only do they take that, but they take another piece of your natural face along with the donor face. So anyway, there's a lot of, it's a whole nother world that I've never been exposed to before, other than taking care of my mother and and other loved ones. But the doctors are telling you individuals' conditions because they can't help themselves. Now I'm in that position, and so where I fortunately can help myself, but I still have to learn every day of my life. I'm learning more about the critical nature of this process. But face transplants is one thing. See, I was burned first. And as a result of that, that experience really, to have an appreciation for the burn survivor community, see, is invaluable. Many have been, lie has been poured on them. Electrocutions, barbecue fires, house fires, car fires. How many females have had their hair burned with hot irons and all kinds of different things that, other types of explosions, birth defects, and so on. So I'm glad that God allowed me to see this and go through it and have if you will, a living knowledge of it. See, so that I can appreciate it more. That is the needs and the advocacy effort that's imperative. And then I had, as a result of the burns, I've had amputations because certain fingers became gangrene and two toes gangrene. So they had to be amputated. And, there's other things that they, infections ensue, so they had to take out certain things or cut down on certain things internally. So it helped me to realize how important and how vast the injuries can be for individuals, and the need for caregiving support, for empathy toward others, etc. And now having a face transplant, I realize now, see, in face transplants it's different because a heart or a liver, lung, kidney, bone marrow, stem cell, they're organs that or conditions that you might take one out and put another in. And unless you tell that person that you've had that experience, you wouldn't know. Of course, with the face, it's a lot different. And it comes with the details of having to connect blood vessels, muscles, tendons, nerve endings, the tissue itself, and they have to strip my head, and they strip the donors. This is with a full face time. You could have a partial, could be just only the chin, it could be only this portion here, right here. And unfortunately, people that have uh, attempted suicide, a lot of people have attempted suicide for so many different reasons. And so when they do that, generally they do it in the head portion, and that if it's just blown off, then they have to do some reconstruction surgery to try to. So face transplant means they have to connect all those parts, the ligaments, the blood vessels, and all of them are just not going to tie together like they should. So uh, that's a little different. I just wanted to show maybe the difference between having a internal organ replaced versus face transplant. But if we did not, if I did not, if I'm not, I'm the first, but I certainly don't want to stay the first.
Right.
I'm hoping that we can encourage others. I would not have this face. One eye can save 8 other eyes. So it's imperative that we encourage humanity to allow themselves, should the need arise, allow themselves to donate their body so that others can live.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, you touched on a lot of different issues there, and then how comprehensive all it is when you're going through all these procedures. So yeah, it's hard to even kind of quantify, the impact and what loss do you have at what level, and still trying to relearn yourself and your body and limitations. And so I'm glad that you touched on all those areas. My next question is regarding your family. So your family, you've already mentioned, that has played a really critical role and kind of helping you throughout the recovery process. Throughout that journey of your recovery process, how has your family influence and the dynamics of that influence changed over time? Have you guys gotten closer together, you think? Or how would you put those dynamics?
Uh, well, I have a daughter. She's 35 years old now, and she's gone through a lot of trauma as a result of her father. I was coded several times during the burns. So the impact on family and friends, customers, etc., has been a lot greater than the impact on me. I still have what can I say but thank God for not just letting me live. That portion is really, it might sound like I'm saying it's not important. It is important, but to live a life of misery or denial or death, in other words, no productivity, then it's not worth living. But thank God he gave me not just a new way of living, but proportionately greater. See, what I used to do before, I've done that. Like they say, I've been there and I've done that. And when I really look back at it, well, what part of my background do I really want to carry with me into this new day? Not much. And the new day is so bright that, so I'm saying this to say everyone can't catch on to the same revelation that you catch on to. That's what it is. It has been revealed to me. So the hope that is connected to that revelation, the optimism, the encouragement, the faith, the drive. Well, it's hard to convey that to your loved ones. That's like somebody getting pregnant, and you want your boyfriend or whatever to immediately love the idea. Now you're feeling this all inside and the emotions and all the, but he's incapable of feeling what you feel right then, maybe forever. See, and then you don't feel the same way. No, you can't. See, and nor can my family feel the same way about God gave me the green light to go on with the transplant. See, I have to convey that to my loved ones. So some of them have even thought that I was doing it for because I wasn't satisfied with the face that I was given, which should be a sad commentary. Whatever God provides, I should definitely be appreciative. But not only that, they would think that, I just wanted to have better looks. That's not it at all. My lips were burned off. Part of my tongue was burned off. It's hard for me to speak. I have to eat and I have to drink. I have the syringe right here. Oh boy, I put the syringe. I can go get it, show you. Maybe I should. Well, anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I have a real big syringe, and it's 60 milliliters long, and that's how I drink. I took my head up and drank like this with a syringe. I had a G tube in my stomach, and to eat when you don't have any lips, you try to eat, and the food everything just keeps coming out. Your saliva is always dripping. So there's a lot of reasons for having some degree of normalcy. That was my purpose. And also the fact that I could not kiss my daughter's cheeks again. So these were internal decisions and internal incentives that I had to convey to my family. And some of them got it, some of them didn't get it. They're not mad with me necessarily, but they may not have agreed with the idea. But I'm the one that received that revelation. So I think that's maybe why more and more our Savior would say things like, forgive them, for they don't know. how can they? You know, it's not their fault necessarily. A lion is just a lion.
Right.
And, you know, so it's that's the transitions have been slow. Fortunately, I think I've been pretty consistent with the joy that I've had, and they can see it in my testimony. They can see it in my commitment, uh, whether it's in church, with customers, with friends, with new friends, with other associations. They can see that this new life, although the public may not identify with it as the ideal look or the ideal condition, physical condition, but uh, it's worth it for me.
Yes, yes. And that kind of definitely changes, how you think about life going through something that traumatic. But again, like you said, it's kind of brought a new way of thinking, a new way of being and thinking about it. But again, your family members might not always be on the same page as you are, because your plan is, for you and basically, doing this advocacy and for health and everything. So thank you for sharing that. Even like you said, not being able to kiss your daughter and stuff like that, that had to be a hard thing to try to overcome. So the
Yeah.
next question I have here is regarding the organ donation. You mentioned that sometimes there's not as many organ donors, particularly in the Black community. I know where we're located in Nevada Donor Network oversees a lot of different types of donorships. One time in particular, I was having a conversation with one of the representatives, and they said one of the most difficult things that they have is trying to get donors for Black patients. Now, this person specifically was speaking about kidney recipients, but she said part of the reason why they stay on the list for so long to be a donor recipient is because a lot of Black people don't sign up to donate. So think about that and impacting, like trying to get a donor to even match somewhat of your skin tone and everything else. Also mentioning that, Black people having 18 different shades. What would you say to people if they were trying to consider being a donor or not, and how important that is to be a donor?
I say a lot of things because depending on the individuals, I'm not sure that I have any patent words to share. I can certainly, that's one reason why I think these conversations ought to be through these discussions here, and as well as visible discussions. They need to feel and touch, have a sensitivity of what it means to have received a transplant. And the individual that signs up is not signing up for something that's immediate, but they're signing up, like insurance or anything else, to ensure that someone can benefit their own children, their own loved ones, their spouse, their siblings. Someone can benefit with their organs. And there are too many others that do not realize that the system that we're under has never, I'm talking about the medical cartel, never been to our likings, to our satisfaction, or in our favor. And that's all the more reason why we must contribute to one another. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to name you by name, but I must make sure that my fellow brother and my sister and my offspring and your offspring have a chance, because others can't give you that chance. They won't give you that chance. And they don't necessarily need to. If we give our own self the very best that we can for ourselves, and it doesn't matter the risk, you cannot anticipate risk or avoid it, because the risks are so great, and yet, fortunately, God is so much greater. So he can cover any circumstance that you might think would take place or would be inhibiting to you. Well, this, today, in my case, yeah, I happen to be the first, but I want to back up just to show you what the first, try to give you maybe an illustration of the first. When I was introduced to face transplant, nobody else knew what else to do with especially my mouth and lips and so on. All the plastic surgeons said all they could do was put a flap on to protect my teeth and gums. But there would not be any way to control my lips so that they could move and make smile or whatever. And so the last plastic surgeon, who's now a friend, he had a friend that studied under Dr. Tomahawk, who was my surgeon. Dr. Tomahawk happens to be not just the leading, but the most renowned plastic surgeon or face transplant surgeon in the world. What do you mean in the world? In other words, no one has done more than 2 face transplants. Dr. Tomahawk has done 10. That's what I mean by renowned in the world. Only 15 face transplants have been accomplished in the United States. As big as the United States is, only 15 have been accomplished. 10 of those were Dr. Tomahawk. So how do you get a black man with no money, no insurance? I eventually got insurance. I had to pay out of my pocket because I've been self-employed, and I had to, but I got insurance on it. And Kaiser has never, Kaiser Community, never done face transplant. As I said, hardly anyone has. All of the face transplants have been done on the East Coast. I live on the West Coast. And so I was able, by God's grace, that they connected, called me in, and qualified me as a candidate, and yet their computer systems could not give real-time information because Kaiser's system was different than Harvard University system. It was called Brigham Women's Hospital at the time. Now it's called General Mass. So that hospital did not have computer systems that worked together. They had to formulate that just for one person, me. How does that happen? See, God makes a way out of nowhere. Not only did the computer systems start working, but one of my medications in 2016 for a 60-day supply cost $11,300 for a 60-day supply. One medication. Yeah. Who's going to pay for that? For one man. One man out of all the hospital's procedures, obligations, commitments, that money, they couldn't make any profit. I'm talking about Kaiser because it's not enough people that would have to use that product. So all of that was done not by me, but God opened those doors. And I'm saying that to say, if a person desires to help someone, you can anticipate as much as you want. But if God is in it, you don't have who can keep you from his precious hand? Who? I mean, what?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So all that at work, like you said, having, like you said, people that are supporting and believe in you, and then also having folks in your own community that are invested in people who they don't even have the names of yet, you know? So that's why all that is important. And then, of course, incorporating your beliefs and spirituality into those factors as well, too. Because like you said, it all has to sync almost divinely for it to all come together.
Well, it's, we would think that in terms of a formula, this would have to happen, but no, your father takes care of you whether you want him to or not. He loves you whether you want, and when you call on him, he's even more inspired to do what he can to help you. See, so nothing has to come together. Just call on him, and he's just he's got every tool, resource to use at his disposal. You have no clue of what he can do for you.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very
So I, oh yeah, well, it's because you had this. Oh, it's because you were. Oh, it's because no, the favor. Uh, where else could it go? There's nothing. What could I have had? What? Just what? What is it? I'm in a coma. Who could take care of it? Oh, Robert, you were so courageous. Oh, I just love your attitude. Oh, you are so brave. You are just a rock star. You are the bomb.
Yeah.
How can, you know, well, if I want all that, tell me how I did it so I can do it, write it down and do it again.
Yeah. Get rid of formula for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
That,
so I think if a person, if they want to care for others, cost them nothing uh, to shine and hope that their organs will be used to benefit another individual.
yes. Yes. That's important to definitely let people know. Yeah. So the next set of these questions will be by Nathaniel, of course, or at West Virginia University. So I'm going to let you take over, Nathaniel, and at the end, we will round it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for all your responses so far. Now let's talk about how you're raising advocacy and awareness about, for over the last decade now, you have focused on advocating for people with disabilities. Now, how have you worked to raise awareness and what impacts do you aim to achieve with the Robert Chelsea Foundation?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Thanks, Nathaniel. Uh, the advocacy effort is might be notable to you and me, but it may not be significant to the world because there's just so much that one can do. I think the premise of our successes, which have been to man hardly any, but to us it has been great because foundation doesn't get much attraction. And it just doesn't seem to have a lot of glory or whistles and bells to go with it. But it's it's having a caring heart. See, that has a way of leaving an indelible impression. Not just impression, but impact, especially on one that the heart might be open to receive it. And so one word to the right person, you never know how far it goes. My intent is to share that one word wherever I can, and in any way that I can, because I don't see pursuing helping God's precious people. I don't see that as a special target for this group or that group. I see it as whosoever will. He that has ear to hear, let them hear. Best we can do is present ourselves. I think there's a scripture that says, greet all men with a holy kiss. Now, if you could beat that, let me know. Send me an email, text me, call me on the phone. Because as we engage with trying to help one another, it's got to be right from the anatomical center of our hearts. See, first. Then your help and efforts are not in vain, even if it's only one small step at a time.
Mhm.
So I cannot try to give you, well, in 2 years we're gonna, 3 years we'll have, that's not, it might be a plan for, for some people, but I'm not sure what, what might take place. I do know thus far, God has opened my eyes to see the need for our disabled diaspora. And I can't really say how qualified I am to fulfill any need, but I do have the presence of mind to do what I can when I can, as often as I can, by God's grace. Well, I don't see why I'm living here today if it weren't for that. And I'll give you another reason why I say that. When I was in the hospital, I was like there for about a year and a half during right after the coma, and I still had to be there in that different hospitals for these centers. But during that time, I asked our Heavenly Father, well, I know you don't want me to really go out and have Bible studies anymore, be more public uh, 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 visible in public because I can't say anything. My lips got burned off. And I know you allowed that to happen because you could have let the car swerve away and I didn't get burned at all. But you let me go in this valley. And so I just need to know how can I go forth and sharing this wonderful experience that I have. And as I was saying these things, I heard a voice, a one-word voice. It said kindness, kindness. I realized right then, he's not talking about the same Robert Chelsea that used to be. He's saying, I need to come up higher. I need to know and learn how to greet all men with a holy kiss. Uh, there's some verbiage that says that the effective fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much.
Mm.
So let's start off with that premise. The more righteous, then it will avail much. My objective is to get where God wants us to be so that it can avail much. But if I ever take the time to pick and choose, he needs to get saved. Oh yeah, he needs no. As we're led, you can be actually led to do certain things. And I want to get to that point where I live and I move and I have my influence based on where God sends and not based on my ambition or my target dates or my target audience, etc.
Yeah, I mean, that is really beautiful, and we are proud of all you're doing, using your experience to create social change, to make impact in society, and we are proud of all you're doing. Now, we know that managing the cost associated with ongoing medical care, including expensive medications, can be really challenging. Now,
Yes,
how can people contribute financially to support your medical bills and your advocacy work through the Robert Chelsea Foundation?
they can simply go to Rocket Chelsea Foundation. We have a GoFundMe, and it would sincerely be appreciated. I have 2 more medications that are new that I have to take starting May the 2nd because the last infection that I got was created blood clots, so nothing can be in this arm at all, not even blood pressure. They can't even take blood pressure for the next 3 months until they absolutely cleared up the so that I'm having a blood thinner now. I have to take it along with this medication starting the 2 other medications that start May the 2nd. And then they're gonna take out my this is a midline, but this line had a PICC line. When I was in the hospital, the PICC line was in there too long and it caused an infection. At least they feel it caused. So these things are ongoing. It would be appreciated if and when you're doing these things, when you're in a hospital a year and a half, nobody knows you're there. Your bill collectors don't know. The ones that have your mortgage, they don't know. The banks don't know. Credit cards, you get liens, you get levies, you get, and who's going to pay for your apartment or your house or whatever all that time? So a great deal happens when I go to the hospital. And like I said, I was just there 7 days a couple of weeks ago. Well, I thought I talked to you, didn't I, Renee? I talked to you. So, yeah, because we were supposed to talk. And that Monday, you called me and I was telling you I was in the hospital. So, you can't do anything to generate income if you're hospitalized. So it would be helpful if they went to robertchelsea.org or donorsdream.org or the Robert Chelsea Foundation. They can also Google my name, Robert Chelsea, and they'll get enough information to.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you asking me. Thank you very much for considering that, Nathaniel.
Absolutely. We're concerned about all of these things, and we hope that you will continue to get all of the finances you need to foot these medical bills and also continue with your advocacy efforts. One of the takeaways for me from this conversation so far is how you are in tune with your spirituality and how much this journey or this experience has drawn you closer, to your faith. You mentioned about how you now experience a greater level of joy, you found peace, you have comfort, and you found a greater connection with God. And that is quite inspiring, I would say. But again, not to go back to that, but what would be your advice to others who are facing physical and emotional challenges associated with disabilities?
I think each disability has its own set of challenges. And let's switch that same individual that has its own set of challenges has its own potential of enormous joy, satisfaction, jubilance that they have yet to encounter. And the same Heavenly Father that provides for me and you provide for them. But it's not just having to believe, but what I would like for them to do is believe that there's more than they can see. Now, they may not turn this way or that, but you've got to believe that there's more than you personally can conceive, because it is more. My life was another dimension was opened up. And I often use the illustration that we see all these beautiful fish that's in the sea, and how beautiful they are, the plant life and the other mammals that are in the sea. We see how beautiful God just put together the birds and everything. But we know that beneath the seas, there's still a at least equal amount of beauty underneath the sea. where our eyes have yet to see. And so I've been fortunate to, if you might say, I've been there. I've been introduced to that new life, that another dimension. So I know it's there. And if I know it's there, my job is to do the best I can with conveying that to you. Somebody's got to go in the valley. You don't look that good down there. First thing you want to do is try to get out. You're not familiar with it. It looks uncomfortable. You can't see. But it's not that you can't see, it's you're going to have a different lens on your eyes. You're going to have to maybe put fresh eye salve on. And then that new day, that person that feels doubt or shame or dismay, you'll discover a new day. You'll discover that those beautiful fish in the sea. So I think first you got to believe, it may take a while, but read the Word of God. You see how many different ones have been used in different ways, and they all came out rejoicing, thrown in jail. Jesus himself crucified. Did he complain? Did Peter and John and James, not just them, but Mary and Martha and all the rest, they also had persecution. Did they complain? It's something about the joy that God provides that supersedes any conditions that you and I can imagine. And best I can do is let you know it's there. I think Job said, neither have I gone back on the commandments of his lips, but I have esteemed his word, what his instructions, more than my necessary food. Oh, why would you do that, Job? Why would you take his words as a top priority in your life? Because I've been there. See? Oh my. And when you've been there, I think another place he said, I know my Redeemer lives, and I shall see him in the last days. He said, and though these skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh I'll see him. Oh, Joe, you got a wild imagination.
Mm.
That person that doesn't have eyesight, that's what he's going to say. Oh, that's a wild imagination. But Job knew what he was talking about. And that's why I can say unequivocally, I know what I'm talking about. That's what a loved one does for others. I can't pick and choose whether it should be Renee or Nathaniel. It's if I can, in the most tender way, is make this testimony available to whomsoever.
Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Really appreciate your thoughts and those inspiring words too. Now, let's talk about the future. Looking forward, what are your goals for the Robert Chelsea Foundation, and how do you plan to continue your advocacy for disability awareness and health equity on a global scale?
At this point, I think it's best for me to make myself available. My goal is to go where I have been invited. I don't have the resources to advertise it, if you will, but I do have the heart and desire to go as one might inquire. I'm happy to go. This year, I've been to Miami. I've been to UConn. I've been to Yale. Been to see where? Oh, San Diego. I've been to Azusa just last weekend. I was at Azusa Donate Life. walk, run. So we go where we can to share the importance of donations. Are we going to King's University in the UK next March or May, one or the other, can't remember. So it's really making ourselves available. You never know what might transfer. Oh yeah, and also on the 23rd of this month, I'll be of May, I'll be in Boston. Yeah, Madison Avenue Preparatory or Vocational High School and the surrounding areas. So, there's only so much that one person can do, but fortunately, there have been a couple of other individuals that have given their time as well. And so through that, we have been able to at least respond to the request for the most part, been able to respond to any request. But in terms of long term, it's I don't know if I have a future endeavor that would, as I mentioned to you before, where I could tell you in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years what I think might happen, where we're going to go and forecast and all that. How could I have done such a thing with the condition that I was in? And now I don't want to try to take hold to the reins, the driver's wheel, if you will. And now I'm going to plan on where we're going to go and what we're going to do. So the conditions is set for God to lead. And if I humble myself sufficiently, I think he, as he has started with getting my attention with the accident and the amputations and the transplant, I think he's got other plans and avenues that we can pursue as he leads. But we just have to have we can have a spiritual ear to hear, or we can have natural ambition, and it'll supersede, it'll override anything, because God's voice is still small and still. It's still the sweet sound that we have to be able to lend our ear to. Otherwise, you'll miss it. I don't want to miss it anymore. 60 something, I'm 70, I'm over 70. So I want to miss it now? No. And what I've been introduced to, the world didn't give it, and the world can't take it away. I won't let it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we are so proud of all your efforts and to raise awareness and also help advance health equity. We're really proud of all of those efforts. And we definitely wish you all the best with your travels and activities. Lastly, reflecting on your journey, what does resilience mean to you? And where do you find strength during moments of difficulty?
Huh. I'm glad you asked that, but I don't know if you're gonna enjoy the answer, but where I find strength is the will to die out to Robert Chelsea, to mortify the deeds of old Robert Chelsea, to get rid of the flesh that so easily besets us, the desires, the ambitions, the talents, it's there's a common something that might be you may have heard before. A man said, "Why don't you check out your mind? It's been with you all the time."
Yeah.
There's somebody else that said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror and asking him to change his ways." I forgot the rest of that. If you want to make if you want to make a change, If you want to make the world a better change, then look at yourself and change. Well, that's what I want to do. How am I going to come up higher, if you will, in glory, if I just got my own thing going on? I'm who I am and I like what I do. No. I have to decrease so that I can let our Heavenly Father increase. Wouldn't you like to get advice from Him daily? Well, then I'm going to have to shut my own mouth, my own ambitions, my own desires. And I think He's got something better for me. What father doesn't have for their child? And I think we've talked about this once before. Another man said, circumcise the foreskin of your heart.
Mhm.
That's what I think will catapult. That'll bring out the best in me. And I think you and me deserve my best. Not you deserve what I got now, I mean, who I am. No, but you deserve my very best. It's up to me to be my very best in Him, so that it will reflect, so that you can benefit from it. You want to teach a child something? Teach them about He that has benefited you. There's only so much one man can do. So, I don't need my name on the marquee, and he doesn't need his name on the marquee. But I do need his advice, his guidance. I need his wisdom. Wisdom is the proper application of knowledge. As much as you have learned, much as you've learned, have you applied it properly? Have you applied it godly? And that's where I want to go. That's what I want to convey and bring and provide for whosoever will.
Great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I was just saying to myself, this session has been filled with philosophical thoughts and wisdom from you, and really appreciate that. I'll turn it back to Renee now as we take the closing shots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Sarah, thank you so much. It's been, a roller coaster, your story of like ups and downs and mids and, trying to just, even somewhat, if you even can, prepare for the future. But I'm so glad you're doing this work. Not everyone who goes through traumatic situations can pull out and still want to try to help other people, so that takes a person of a big character and big values. And I think from your spiritual your side as well too, but also who you are as a human being, even before and after the accident and during the accident, it says a lot about who you are. I did watch one media clip before from the gentleman that did help you, trying to get you from that car when it was on fire. And he said the first thing that you did was ask about the other driver. You didn't even ask about yourself. You asked about the other person. So that's a testament to who you are and your will. And I think you're going to go even much further, even though all the interviews that you've done and all the beautiful work that you've done and being the first of your own, I think you have a lot more to do. So I'm glad that you're still here. And I'm so happy that you gave us the opportunity to do an interview with us. And I'm sure this will help a lot of people. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we close it out?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned me asking about the other person. I think we could close out with that, and that is, many people have made comments to me about whether I could ever forgive the person that hit me, and I told them it's not worth forgiving. It was an accident. How many times have you caused an accident, one way or another? How many times have you lied? Have you ever cheated? Have you been deceptive? Have you ever misled anyone? Have you ever promised and broke your promise? Have you ever stumbled or caused somebody else to stumble? And yet I got the nerve to get mad and get that guy, oh, he needs to go, oh, we need to really get him. Well, heaven forbid if they look at my record and see 100 times that I need to be done. So it's forgiveness is not, oh, I'm going to forgive. You must be a giving, forgiving, a loving, kind person. Not be kind, you must be a kind person. This is kindness and tenderness and gentleness. You don't take that off the shelf. You shouldn't. And okay, well, I'll use it now. No. If we got to the point, and you can get there if you desire, to be a kind man or woman. Not act kind, not use kindness, not apply it here and hold it on. That's what iniquity means. Self-judgment. Oh yeah, I'll do it for them, but I won't, no, I don't think how many times did you forgive me? 7 times? No, you 70 times 7. You don't apply that. We have to become that. And then I think those things that we're dismayed about, even those that you asked the question, Nathaniel, about individuals that might be disabled or, well, sometimes it is forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. Why me? Think, now I'm going to have to do this. No, you don't have, it's not just hope at the end. Your hope can start now. Don't ever think that the manifestation is in the future. I think, I know we sing a song, look up and rejoice. A new day has become. Look all around you and see what God has done. He's turned our darkness into his marvelous light. It's the dawning of a new day, and the future is so bright.
Yes.
So I see
Yeah.
the future. And the future isn't, maybe next month, 2 years, 3. No. We live, we move, and we should have our being today.
Very true.
That's really enough that we can rejoice about today, right now on the spot. And if you can't, call me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to, like you said, to rejoice and have that and everything, and then share that joy with other people, because it is definitely needed joy and be more joyous of the things that we already have, even if we have to go through things that are sometimes traumatic. Even in your case, that can always lead to new pathways for other people. And listening to your story can lead to a new way of thinking for other people, and maybe hopefully get them involved with your mission, maybe our mission as well too. But even as much as being just a kind person can start that as well. So thank you so much for doing the interview with us today. Go ahead and put this top on record. And anyone that's listening, again, you can donate to the Robert Chelsea Foundation. It is available online. You can find a lot of Robert's past interviews, his ongoing initiatives that he's doing. Reach out to him as well too. I'm sure he'd be open to that. Any further money that you would like to try to donate for his health advocacy efforts, especially when he goes to different places overseas or just around the country, it is definitely well appreciated as well. So if you want to reach out to us, we're at bchwanv@gmail.com, and you can see our website at bchwanv.org and check us out.
Repeat that a little bit slower.
Oh, yeah, you can check us out at bchwanv.org, and then you can always use the hashtag BCHWA Envy, and that will find you on our social media pages as well too. So thank you so much. All right, thank you, everyone.